College football news, a developing story tonight is first reported by sportsbybrooks.com. LSU head coach Les Miles has a 5-year, $27.5 million offer in his back pocket to leave the Tigers and go run the show at Arkansas. The Arkansas Democrat-Gazette refutes that, saying no such offer exists. Of course, LSU just defeated Arkansas 20-13 in the regular season finale this past Friday. Tom Murphy writes for that fine newspaper, and he joins us here on SportsCenter. All right, Tom, which way is it? Any offer or no offer at all?
Well, that's just reporting from a connected person at Arkansas saying no Arkansas offer existed. However, reports out of South Louisiana further tonight have claimed that Jerry Jones has been involved, and there are plausible connections in this. And I think when it's all said and done, when the smoke clears, I don't think there's going to be any movement on this. But there are plausible connections. Jeff Long and Les Miles knowing each other at Michigan, and Jerry Jones being the Cowboys owner when Les Miles was a coach there. So the folks in South Louisiana reporting there is a serious offer. A connected source here at Arkansas saying no offer on the table. When it's all said and done, I think no movement.
If it's not Les Miles, who's the leader in the clubhouse for the next head coach of the Razorbacks? Still need a guy to have.
Well, it's Jeff Long has really kept things tight on this search, as he does with all his others. I think there's a couple of Big 12 coaches that you cannot rule out yet. Art Briles at Baylor, I think, would be a fine hire here. Mike Gundy's name has still been involved, and I think there's probably a stealth candidate. I mean, I thought that before, and I would call Les Miles a stealth candidate, and I think there may be another. And then I think there's some really good, fine coordinators out there, Kirby Smart type folks that could be involved.
Last thing, we'll let you go. What is the desperation level off this season in Arkansas right now to get things turned around and really get a winning program there in the SEC?
Well, the way things are going in the SEC West right now, when you consider that A&M is now in the league and they spend a lot of money and they came in and had immediate success, and Alabama is just where it's been for the last 3 or 4 years. Ole Miss and Mississippi State both playing good football. Arkansas, I mean, if you fall behind some, it can be a while to catch up. They want to get a big time hire that can unite the fan base again. They're going to have to build up a little bit in terms of their personnel on their roster. They had a couple of lean classes. So I don't know how quick of a rebuild it's going to be. I think in a couple of years they might be able to start making some noise again. But obviously the fans here are eager to see another winner, and I think they're ready to spend money, pretty decent money, to get a coach that can do that.
Thomas Murphy, the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, the very latest on the report of Les Miles having an offer of 5 years, $27.5 million to run the show at Arkansas.
And plenty of coaches looking perhaps for new work, and that might include Arkansas, who are looking at a high-profile move to get Les Miles. Last night, a story broke that Arkansas made an offer to the LSU coach, reportedly for 5 years and $27.5 million, according to sources. Athletic Director Joe Aliva meeting with Miles' agent. In Miles' 8 seasons at LSU, he's led Tigers to an 85-20 record, 1 national title, 2 BCS championship games, 2 SEC title games. So Joe Shad joins us now. Joe, what can you tell us about this story and the search for a new coach at Arkansas?
Well, Max, Les Miles was scheduled to have a season-ending press conference at 3 o'clock Eastern. That has been pushed back an hour, leading to further speculation. Now, last night, an Arkansas source told me it would not be correct to say that Les Miles has received an offer. But today, a well-placed LSU source tells me that Miles has expressed to the school that he does have options. And last night, an LSU source told me that there is some mutual interest between Arkansas and Les Miles. That said, most of the people I speak to around the sport of college football think that it is unlikely that Miles will leave LSU. And won 10 games numerous times. For Arkansas, where, as we know, it's a little bit more difficult to recruit. So if Miles does not go to Arkansas, there are some more realistic possible candidates, including, I've been told, Art Briles of Baylor, Kirby Smart at Alabama, Mark D'Antonio, Larry Fedora, Tommy Tuberville. These are all names that Athletic Director Jeff Long might at some point be talking to.
We've got some breaking news right now here on The Experts, and that is that Joe Schad is tweeting and citing sources that Brett Bielema is now the new head coach at Arkansas.
Really?
Arkansas.
That is a wow to me.
Wow. Out of nowhere wow?
That is an out of nowhere wow. To me, and we called a couple of games for Arkansas this year, and you knew they were going to come after a big name coach. They said it. We're not going to look for an up and comer. We want a guy who's established. But Brett Bielema's name, I haven't heard it in any other circles. I haven't heard him as a candidate. I haven't even heard him as a consideration. The fact that he got that job, or perceptibly anyway, perhaps gets that job, that's shocking to me.
And Coach, you talk about a change in philosophy.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I'm thinking about that.
Yeah, we're going from the Big 12 philosophy out there in Arkansas on the border of the Big 12 to this, to grinding it out.
Yeah, it's Velcro blocking, it's big guys up front, it's pound and ground, and I'm not sure. That may take a couple of years to change the personnel to fit his system. I don't know that he coaches any other system. That's the one thing about Brett. He's been very true to what he does at Wisconsin and took over for a guy that he believed in. And he was a defensive guy, though, too. So, I mean, he can do it all.
And how attractive is that system to a new recruiting player pool that he would be drawing from in comparison to the Texas A&Ms on offense and Florida on offense? That's going to be interesting to see, too, if that's what he sticks with on offense, if he does indeed become the head coach at Arkansas. How attractive is that?
Who's going to coach these recruits? I mean, now you got to recruit players, but this guy, Brett Bielema's had to deal with a great deal of coaching turnover already this year, even this year, having to let go of his offensive line coach, Paul Chryst, the head coach, his former offensive coordinator, now at Pittsburgh. How many guys does he bring with him? And it's not like it's a group that's been together for quite some time. There's elements that have, but there's been a lot of turnover there. It's almost like Urban Meyer in his latter years at Florida. If he went immediately to another team, who is he bringing with him?
If he would go, would he coach the Rose Bowl or not? I mean, that's because I'm not sure. I think he is involved with a lot of things on his team. He's the face of that program. There's not major coordinators right now that I think of and say, oh, these guys will take up the slack right now. I mean, wow, that is a wow.
Wow. It's a wild move. Wild move. Certainly is. Once again, breaking news, as we touched on earlier, sources now saying that in principle, Brett Bielema, the current coach at Wisconsin, has agreed to be the next head coach at the University of Arkansas in the SEC.
Boom.
Boom. I mean, an out of nowhere boom. You're still flabbergasted.
I am. This is an ambush. I mean, my curiosity would almost be either was there smoke screens being put out there, were there denials, and there probably were offers and refusals, and at the same time, who reached out to whom in this one? And of course, it changes the complexion of the Rose Bowl quite a bit. I mean, you've already got questions about the quality of some of these BCS games. And now you've got Brett Bielema, who has seemingly agreed in principle. So now does he coach his team? And it goes back to this conversation about what we've talked about with Dave Doran at Northern Illinois, except this one has similar implications as well, except the entire Big Ten Conference is kind of riding on Wisconsin's performance in this one. And it's clearly, I think, compromised with this decision.
Remember, Coach Bielema was a guy earlier in the year kind of getting on Urban Meyer, talking about the SEC tactics.
He's a
can't beat him, join him.
Pretty good recruiter, though. He got Russell Wilson a couple of years ago, which helped his team just a little bit. Pretty good.
To that point, he did show the ability to open up the offensive playbook to make room around Russell Wilson. And so because of that, what we discussed earlier, maybe when he gets to Arkansas, he'll get somebody in there to run that spread option and say, here you go.
He's a smart, intelligent coach.
Right.
He can recruit, he can evaluate talent, and he puts his people in a position to win. I think the job he did this year was one of his best coaching jobs, given the wreck that it was to start with and how they finished the season.
Without question. Great coaching job by Brett Bielema. We've got breaking news in the college football world once again as Brett Bielema has agreed, according to sources, to become the next head coach at the University of Arkansas. As we take a look at his resume while at the helm in Madison, Wisconsin. Obviously tremendous success over the span of 7 years. 4 times of 10-plus wins in a season. And Rose Bowls, that's what you're measured by in the Big Ten. Getting to the Rose Bowl, winning Rose Bowls. Any other take on this other than the big wow that we've obviously expounded
What
upon?
does this say about the opportunity of coaching in the SEC? I mean, as
the lure of it?
I mean, playing against the best competition week in and week out perceivably in the country. I mean, what
a league that's won 6 consecutive national championships, and the reality is now competing for a 7th. I think coaches across the nation, if you want to be considered the best, you have to play the best and beat the best. So people are beating the drum to get to the SEC, no question.
Yeah, he's certainly not running from Urban Meyer, because you don't run from one coach and land in the SEC West with Les Miles, Kevin Sumlin, Nick Saban, and others, and who knows at Auburn. So you can't say that, of course. He's going to the pressure cooker of college football.
You have to have confidence. You have to love the challenge.
And confidence, and we've talked about this earlier, confidence is not. I think he's perceived as a kind of a quiet guy nationally, but he does not lack for confidence, and now we're gonna test that in that division.
More breaking news here on the Experts in the World of Coaching. As Gus Malzahn, it has been reported, will be the next head coach at Auburn University after spending 3 seasons as the offensive coordinator for the Tigers, including a national championship in 2010, took over the Arkansas State program that had gone 10-2 under Hugh Freeze the year before. He ends up winning the Sun Belt Conference at 9-3. Gus Malzahn reported to be the next head coach at Auburn University, and as we reported earlier, at Arkansas, Brett Bielema, Wisconsin's head coach, sources are saying will be the next head coach for the Razorbacks in the SEC.
You think Gus sold his house in Auburn?
He's renting.
I mean, did he hang on to the house?
He's renting.
You just move right back in. I mean, you go to
Pat
Arkansas
Dye used
State
it as
for
a summer
year.
home.
Yeah, he might have. I tell you what, you almost wonder, you see Gus Malzahn, he had the success that he did at Auburn. You see Hugh Freeze coming from Arkansas State, the success that he's having at Ole Miss. You almost wonder, did he jump off of that ship? Did he see it sinking at Auburn and recognize, I got to get away from this program or I'm going to get pulled down with it? It might have been the most genius of coaching moves ever, because I know when he left Auburn and took the head job at Arkansas State, I thought, what is this guy doing right here? He was one of the hottest names in the head coaching carousel a year or season 2 ago.
You know, he was on the show with us a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
He talked about that Auburn is a great job. And he didn't say he'd love to have it, but he just said a lot of people would say how tough it would be. He didn't. He thought it's great. He talked about the fan base. He talked about the facilities. He talked like he was hoping to get that job.
He argued with us. We were all, the question was, which ship will you want to jump on right now? And we're all like, we all sat right here. Oh, not Auburn. Auburn's in
Tennessee or Arkansas.
I sat here and ran him down. Oh, Paul Feinbaum alone, you don't want the Auburn job, you know? and he said, oh, no, it's great. And he knew something that we didn't. He and the folks up at Wisconsin, those guys all need to be poker players.
Guys are cashing in right now with breaking news coming to you just moments ago. You look at the coaches' openings in major college football. We started the day with 11. Arkansas, we are taking off the list. And for the latest, let's go to our insider, Brett McMurphy, with talk of Brett Bielema, the Wisconsin head coach, headed to the Rose Bowl again, now headed to the SEC. What can you tell us?
Yeah, Joe, I think it really shocked all of college football. Brett Bielema going to Arkansas. He's been at Wisconsin for 7 years. He just led the Badgers to his 3rd consecutive Rose Bowl. Our Mark Slabaugh has reported that Bielema wants to coach in the Rose Bowl. Obviously, that decision has not been made yet. Kind of ironic that he's going to the SEC, because earlier this year he was quoted saying, we don't want to be like the SEC in any way, shape, or form, when he had some issues with the way Urban Meyer was recruiting at Ohio State. I think the thing that shocks a lot of people is Bielema's background has been in the Midwest. He's an Iowa graduate. He coached at Iowa, Kansas State, and Wisconsin, and now he goes to an SEC school.
Brett, stand by. I want to get to the other coaching searches with you in a moment. But first, Matt, I got to bring you in. You and I were sitting with Brett Bielema in his office just about 2 weeks ago as they prepared to play Ohio State, and we called that game. Is this a stunner to you, Bielema to the SEC?
Yeah, it doesn't quite seem to have the right fit to me for some reason. But if you think about it and think through it, his physical style of play would play well down in the SEC. And they've got to get bigger and stronger up front. And that's what he specializes in. But here's the thing that, to me, just on face value, Tess, this just smells like a cash move. It kind of bugs me, actually. And I guess you can't begrudge the guy for having an opportunity, but it just seems like this is the fact that nobody had even seen it coming. I guarantee you, he had been contemplating it for a while. These things don't just happen overnight, and so I don't like it.
The reports, Wisconsin's head coach Brett Bielema soon to be announced as the head coach at Arkansas. Once again, breaking news. According to multiple sources, ESPN confirming that Brett Bielema is leaving Wisconsin and has accepted the head coaching position at Arkansas. Of course, Bielema's had so much success, third consecutive Rose Bowl appearance. Now listen, the team only went 8-5, but they looked great against Nebraska in the Big Ten title game. Arkansas, obviously, the situation with Bobby Petrino. John L. Smith was put in as an interim, was only given a 10-month contract. So they were looking to land a big-name head coach. Nobody saw this one coming, Matt Millen. As we said just a few weeks ago, we were broadcasting a game involving Wisconsin and Brett Bielema. We sat with him for at least an hour. Arkansas said they were going to spend the money. Clearly, they spent it. We don't know the details right now, but he was making, as of a year ago, over $2.5 million up at Wisconsin. They're in the Rose Bowl. Barry Alvarez, former head coach, the athletic director. If you're Barry Alvarez, how do you approach this? We heard a report from Mark Schlabach that Bielema would like to coach in the Rose Bowl. What do you do if you're athletic director?
Thanks a lot. Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. See you out the door. Not even close. Wouldn't hesitate. Move on. You made your decision, and you're going to move on from us. He has a contract in place, so they must have bought it out or whatever they did. And if I'm Barry Alvarez, I wouldn't even think twice. I would just say, look, next up. You're new. You got your home. You signed on. Go ahead down to Arkansas. Do I sound a little bitter?
Interesting to think of how he fits in the SEC. The background of Brett Bielema is he's a guy who played at Iowa. He went on, learned the defensive side of the ball under Hayden Fry, went on, learned how to be a coordinator at Kansas State under Bill Snyder, and then Alvarez took him in as defensive coordinator before he ascended to the head coaching job. Nothing really says SEC in the background of Brett Bielema.
And you have to look at what he's taking over, because right now the Arkansas defensive front needs work. That offensive line needs work. It's built really to be a throwing football team. That's what it is. And if he wants to instill what he's done up at Wisconsin to go down into the SEC, he's got a lot of recruiting to do.
There's another factor to talk about, and that is the influx of all the new money that's come into college football. All these big television contracts you've been hearing about, and the new money coming down the line with the new playoff that's coming down. Well, now the coaches want their piece of the pie. We saw the escalation when the Pac-12 signed their contract of going out and getting rock star type coaches. Mike Leach coming off the market, going to a place like Washington State. Will we now see this run of other big-name coaches from established programs willing to go where the next check is coming? Do you think it continues?
I don't believe that. I don't want to believe that. I think what's happening right now is there could be a run, so to speak, but these things, Tess, they don't happen overnight. There's a long vetting process that you go through, and there's a lot of work that goes into picking that guy to fit your team. So this thing that, while it may be a surprise to us that Bielema all of a sudden today we find out, this has been going on for a while.
One of the guys that helped us find out is Mark Schlabach from ESPN.com. Mark, what more can you tell us about the move from Wisconsin to Arkansas for Brett Bielema?
Well, I still don't have a lot of the details. Talked to somebody at Arkansas. They have not finalized, at least he wasn't aware, finalized the terms as far as length and the numbers. He told me that Brett Bielema wanted to coach Wisconsin in the Rose Bowl. Said Arkansas was fine with it. I'd be very, very surprised if Barry Alvarez would ever go for it. But you got to go back to the spring. Remember during his argument with Urban Meyer over recruiting tactics in the Big Ten, Brett Bielema said the Big Ten does not want to be the SEC in any way, shape, or form. So it is a strange hire. I think the fact that Wisconsin has been a little bit reluctant to pay its assistant coaches over the years might have had something to do with it. If you remember, Brett Bielema lost 6 assistant coaches, including offensive coordinator Paul Christ, who's at Pittsburgh. And Arkansas has really invested a lot of money in its facilities, and then now apparently he's going to invest a lot of money in its coaching salaries.
How do you think he fits in culturally with the SEC, Mark?
He's a Midwest guy. I think that would be my biggest concern about Brett Bielema at Arkansas is he's going outside his comfort area. He's a Midwest guy. You look at Arkansas, it's been a blue-collar, physical, prodding offense. People at Arkansas loved what Bobby Petrino did there with the offense, throwing the ball all over the field, and I think it's going to be an adjustment.
I think Nick Saban was a Midwest guy, too, who went down there and had some success. Kent State, Michigan State, obviously Cleveland. At Wisconsin, what kind of a guy do you think Barry Alvarez goes after, and are they in that market also for getting a well-established headline-grabbing hire?
You know, I hate to say it, but I think the obvious choice is Paul Chryst. And I would hate to see Pittsburgh have to go out and find another coach with the situation they've been through the last few years. But I think Paul Chryst is the perfect guy. I mean, he was Bielema's offensive coordinator for 6 years. They were very successful with the offensive lineman who went on to the NFL and the running back. You know, I think he would be a perfect choice to replace Brett Bielema at Wisconsin.
Let the chain reaction begin. The domino effect will start now with all the coaching hires. Mark Schlabach, thank you very much for your time. Let's get back to the Arkansas hire, because this is the one that's sending shockwaves throughout the game. Brett Bielema leaves Wisconsin, a move that caught Wisconsin athletic director Barry Alvarez by surprise, and may actually now have him coaching in the Rose Bowl, was intimated, against Stanford. Bielema's move to the SEC comes with a pay increase, reportedly $3.2 million per year for 6 years.
But last April, we began this process. I talked about the characteristics we'd be looking for. We said someone who shared the passion for success that our fans do and is willing to work tirelessly to achieve those goals. It would be someone who embraces the high expectation of winning an SEC championship and a national championship. It'd be someone who has discipline and accountability in their program, both on the field and in the classroom. It would also be someone who will lead our student athletes and coaches with honesty, integrity, and class on and off the field. And finally, someone that embraced the passion of football and embraced the passion of this fan base and what it means to all of us throughout the state of Arkansas. And there's no question that our new head football coach embodies all of these characteristics. I'm proud to say that the coach we are introducing to the Razorback Nation today meets all those expectations and brings with him a football resume that includes 5 New Year's Day bowl games, 3 Rose Bowls, 2 Big Ten championships, and he's done this in only 7 years, and all before the ripe old age of 43. But just as importantly, he also brings a commitment to impacting the lives of the student athletes he works with. His most recent multi-year APR was 975, some 50 points above the 925 benchmark. He also, over the last 3 years, has had 60 academic All-Big Ten selections on his teams. He has a style of physical football that has led to some of the most dominating defenses in the country, an offense that begins with winning the line of scrimmage and includes a balanced offensive approach. But you also see that balanced offense approach can produce some 70 points like it did last weekend in the Big Ten championship game. He's a coach that's won the right way both on and off the field, quite simply put. He's a coach who deeply values his relationship with his student athletes, and that means a great deal to me. But before I introduce our new head football coach, I'd like to introduce an important member of his team and now our team, and that's his wonderful wife, Jen. Jen, could you please stand to be recognized? And my wife, Fanny, would like to present you with a welcoming gift. This afternoon, I am very proud to be the athletic director of the University of Arkansas as we officially introduce the 32nd head football coach of the University of Arkansas Razorbacks, Brett Bielema. Brett? We get to have you put on the hat, my friend. All right? There you go. All right, you can take it off.
Thank you. Put the hat on, but I'm not a hat guy. All right. I will wear it during practice, but that's about the only time I wear a hat. And you can see I have a lot to improve on in the looks department. So, thank you for coming today. I'm very excited to stand in front of you. I apologize. My voice is a little raspy yet. It was a loud venue we played in on Saturday night, and some of my guys weren't listening all the time, so I had to raise my voice occasionally, so I apologize for that. I have a long list of people to thank. Obviously, Jeff just did that, but to say thank you to Jeff and his staff, who I've met several along the way. And today's been a whirlwind. I'm looking forward to the next several days to get a chance to meet everybody. The thing I've learned in this profession, it's not necessarily, just about the person that's directly in charge, whether it be me as a head coach or my offensive defensive coordinator or all my assistant coaches. It's about the people that are around them, the administration, the support staff, the people that touch our lives and our players' lives on a daily basis. That's the only time you can build something that will last a long, long time, and I can see Jeff has done that. To Chancellor Dave Gerhardt, thank you very much. To have this opportunity, I've been blessed to work for several chancellors and presidents, to also President Donald Bobbitt. I haven't had a chance to visit with you yet, but looking forward to the months ahead. And, what today brings is an opportunity for me to stand in front of you and chase a dream. I know I really didn't get into coaching in kind of a normal way. I grew up ironically, on a pig farm. I grew up in an environment where really all I thought I was going to do was stay on the farm and help my dad carry on the traditions that he had taught me from the age of 4 moving forward. When I left the farm, I cried like crazy because it was all I knew, and I'm glad that I was raised that way, because the one thing I've learned in this life and every job that I've had, every role that I've taken, every responsibility that I've gathered, it truly is up to you to put in the work, to put in the time, do it right the first time, because you won't have to go back and do it again. And I only would learn that through my days on the farm. I'd like to recognize a couple people that I'm just beginning to meet. I just got out of a meeting with a group of young men, our players that return for next year. If it's any indication that they're in a mode to ready to move forward, I first commended them for going through a stretch in their lives that they'll remember forever. I truly believe that men in this world, truly successful men, are probably defined more during their times of adversity than their times of success. I made sure that they understood where I was coming from. We've had a lot of that in my coaching career and my personal life as well. And I challenge them to understand that they just persevered something. I know they wanted to have more success. I know they wanted to be going to a bowl game. I know they wanted to achieve all the things that they felt were in front of them at the end of the year, but they persevered. And I saw a team play their final game in a manner that they were not ones that gave in or let up. They competed to the end and unfortunately didn't come up with the last victory, but they won, I'm sure, a lot of people in this room, as well as a lot of people in the Arkansas Nation that were proud of that team on that day. It truly is exciting for me to get to know the fan base at Arkansas. I actually grew up in Illinois, but one of my favorite aunt and uncles grew up and lived in Little Rock. My favorite cousins, we only got to see them once or twice a year because they'd only come for Thanksgiving or the holidays. And actually, my aunt and uncle still live in Little Rock. I have a cousin that lives right here in Fayetteville, and it's going to be fun to rekindle with them. They used to bring us some Arkansas gear. I couldn't even tell you where Arkansas was when I was 8, but I was wearing that hat. It was a lot of fun. And excited. With that, they introduced me first to what the fans of Arkansas are always about. The fans and the alumni. I haven't met a lot of you yet, but you have great passion. I witnessed it firsthand my first year as a head coach. I had the good fortune of having a very good football team. We lost one game that year to Michigan. I was on a very bad officiating call. I could say that now. I'm out of that league. They can't find me, but it was a punt return that got called back. Anyways, long story. But it is the first thing that I recognized when we got to the Capital One Bowl, and everywhere I went, we would get cat calls of pig suey throughout the bowl week. Their players had a great amount of passion and a great amount of respect for them. We played a very hard-fought game, fortunately for us at that time. I was on the other sideline. We won that game. And now to come full circle and have an opportunity to lead this program is truly exceptional. So the fan base, the alumni, I can tell you from this day forward, we will do nothing as players and coaches but try to give you every win that you deserve. And we'll take it one game at a time. I'm not going to promise anything. I will tell you I'm here because I want to give you something you've never had. And we'll take it one day at a time and pursue that thing together. To future recruits and their families, I will tell you this. One of the first things that attracted me to the University of Arkansas is that it is the University of Arkansas in this state. And I realize there's other great colleges and other great universities, but no one that's playing Division I football at the level that we're going to play. And if anybody in this state can play at a championship level, we need them here at the University of Arkansas. That's very, very important. I've learned that during my coaching tenure of different state universities that I've been at. If you can't solidify things in here in state, and if they're going to play for other people, you're not going to be as good as you can be. So it's going to be important from this day forward that we carry that thought of throwing a fence around the state borders and realize that everybody needs to stay here at home and represent us in a very, very positive manner. No matter if I'm here in the state of Arkansas, if I'm in the state of Texas, if I'm in Florida, if I'm anywhere that maybe Arkansas hasn't gone before because I have a special connection with a high school coach or a program that believes in what we are, we'll recruit uncommon men here. We'll recruit men that are held to higher standards. I don't want people to be normal. I want them to be uncommon. I want them to be the standard that's been set in the world of college football on and off the field. I think I've got everybody there, but probably the most important person in my life to make this jump today is because last March I got married. You shouldn't cry when you're talking about your wedding, but I waited to 42 years of life to enter into that world, and the biggest reason that I was excited is this is a chance to come into a university, come into a city, to come into a state, and to give you a woman that is someone that's changed my life and held me together, and I'm only about 7 or 8 months into it, so it's only going to get better. So if you would allow me to please introduce and bring up my wife, Jen, and I think we got to call the Hogs up.
To help us out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And the Spirit Squad.
Let you guys stand on this side so we can get a good shot at it. Let's follow their lead. Have you practiced? Yeah. You practiced? Okay. All right. We'll follow their lead. All right. So you just say, let's call those Hogs.
Let's call those Hogs.
Yeah, so start this way.
Hey, silly.
Hey, silly. Hey, silly. Razorbacks. All right. Not bad. First time. Congratulations. Fantastic. You're going to take some Q&A. Jen, you can sit up here.
Guys, if you have a question for Coach, just raise your hand. We'll get you a microphone. And if you could, just identify your name and your affiliation with Coach.
Just to clarify, that was my first public pig suey. From the age of 4 to 18, I did it quite a bit, but my only partners were pigs. So a little more pressure there.
Coach, right here, Aaron Peters from the Razorback Nation. How did that first pig call feel to you?
Felt very good. I know you're with family and friends. It's definitely something I can improve on, I guarantee it.
Just a general thought from maybe a lot of the fans. Why leave a good thing in Wisconsin, and how much the possibility to pay your assistants more had to do with that decision?
It was, I appreciate the question and understand it. I should, and first and foremost, I left a great place. I left a place that gave me my first opportunity as a head coach. One of the things that I really believe in as a coach, if you can leave the place in a better place than where you were, you should feel good. And we gave them 3 straight Big Ten championships, never been done before. I would love to just say thank you to Coach Alvarez, my AD, that gave me a tremendous amount of guidance, and it was a very difficult decision, something I didn't just think about. I've had some opportunities come my way the last 2 years probably that made me begin to think a little bit, and I got such a tremendous university and respect for Wisconsin, but the opportunity to be in the SEC, it's just something I really wanted to do. Early on in my coaching career, I was given an opportunity to become a defensive coordinator, and I let that opportunity go by, and probably the best thing I've ever did, but it was something that intrigued me at that time, made me think about coaching in the SEC, and I'm just glad that the opportunity came at Arkansas, because there's probably only 2 or 3 schools that I would have thought about this opportunity, and after I got involved in it, there's only one school I would have done it for, and that's Arkansas.
Coach, right here. Kurt Voigt with the Associated Press. For a guy who's a Midwestern guy, raised and worked professionally, any nervousness about coming to the South, and also will you coach in the Rose Bowl?
I won't coach in the Rose Bowl. When I had my conversation with Coach Alvarez, Jeff had came out with me with the intent to be pretty aggressive on the timing of it. I went and visited with Coach, and Coach Alvarez is a very persuasive individual. So before I went and saw him, I knew what I was doing and had to do. And as far as being nervous, I think the thing that probably intrigued me more than anything, as I've watched over the years, the SEC, there's a lot of coaches that have my type of background that have had success, not only just growing up and being a part of it, but coming in from a Big Ten coaching background early in their career, some of the principles and things that they've done. And I'm excited because to work with the caliber of the athlete that the SEC can bring and what we can bring here to the University of Arkansas is very exciting. No apprehension. Yes.
Hey, Brett, Tom Murphy, Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Could you apprise us of how the talks evolved with Jeff, how that went? And then secondly, joining the SEC, you had some interesting remarks about SEC recruiting and just your thoughts about doing that.
Tom, I have to apologize. My father called me. Did you try and reach out to my parents earlier today? And he shot you down, right?
Go through you.
Yep, yeah, go through me, which we will do. I learned how to handle things from my father. My dad, early on in this thing, he used to get some phone calls, and I'd just say, hey, just run them all through me before you answer anything. And unfortunately, Tom was the first victim. But I'll give you the first access, I promise. And I think, obviously the comments I made in regards to the SEC a year ago. I understand this. A year ago, I was a head coach at the University of Wisconsin. I was the two-time defending Big Ten champion. And the issues that arose or came about because of that comment really had nothing to do with what was really going on. Unfortunately, it got spun into that, and a lot of, not misquotes because I said it, but they were quotes that weren't really at the root of what the question was. I have a great amount of respect for the SEC. That's why I'm standing here for you, in front of you today. And the part that I think you guys have to appreciate is where you're at is where you need to protect and stand up for what you believe in. And nobody would be a stronger supporter of the SEC moving forward than myself.
And the talks with Jeff, maybe.
Oh, and Jeff, I'm sorry. Yep. I guess it was Sunday. My wife can probably refresh me a little bit more. We got done with a very big game on Saturday night, and the Big Ten championship game, for whatever reason, decides that they need to be the last championship game in the world of college football. When I was coming in the locker room before halftime, I was watching the end of the Alabama-Georgia game and seeing that unfold, and I clicked it off. I didn't even watch the last 2 minutes, which I probably should have, knowing what I know now. But I clicked it off, and I'm like, well, the SEC, they should play the late game. We should be the earlier late game, And then lo and behold, we got done. It was 11:30. I'm not real quick with numbers, but we had scored a number of points, and Nebraska had a certain number of points. I was trying to figure out how many touchdowns they would have to get in the last quarter to win the game, and I figured it was above 5 touchdowns. And I'm like, my defense isn't going to allow that to happen. And I looked at my watch, and I said, is it 11:30? And my coordinators were like, yeah, Coach, it's 11:35. So after the meeting, I didn't walk in the hotel till 1:30. I didn't touch my phone that night. Left it alone. Sunday, checked my messages. I had over 60 messages. I had a message to reach out to actually John first and had a conversation with him, agreed to meet in New York City on Monday. I was already going to New York City for the Hall of Fame and met with them late Monday night, went to the hotel, thought about it, processed it, met with Jeff and John on Monday morning, and believe I saw Coach Alvarez about 11:30, 11:45, and it was probably, I believe, 2:30 when we were in the air flying to Madison. So it happened very, very quickly. But it was, again, something that I had processed, not Arkansas itself, but in my mind for a little bit. We'd done some really good things. I'd gone to 2 straight Rose Bowls. I knew that we went into that Nebraska game with a chance to go to a third, and the way our team played, it just really gave me a great satisfaction that they've got a pretty good team coming back there. They got 27 juniors, I believe 14 draftable players next year, so it was going to be another good year, but just felt it was time for me to try and spread my wings and fly a little bit further.
Coach Nate Allen of Nate Allen Sports Service, do you plan to interview the existing Arkansas assistants, and would you possibly keep any of those? And also, do you plan to bring some assistants with you from Wisconsin?
Absolutely. It's a great question. I've been a part of some of these coaching changes, and unfortunately, I learned this one firsthand. I was a young coach at the University of Iowa. Hayden Fry stepped down. Coach Broyles knows Hayden Fry, and I played for Hayden. He gave me a scholarship. I was a walk-on. He came into my office and told me he was retiring, and I started crying like a baby because I didn't know what was going to happen. And all of a sudden, I get a phone call from my mother, and she says, "Do you have a job?" And I'm like, not only do I not have a job, I don't have a car because the university gives you a car. So I was sitting there, who are they going to bring in? What are they going to do? And went on and on to search, and then finally they named Kirk Ferentz. He came in, and one thing he did is he interviewed every coach, but he kept walking by my office. He kept walking by my office, and I'm getting nervous, and it's like 10 o'clock, and he hadn't said, and he goes, "Let's meet tomorrow." I'm like, no. Let's stay in here and meet tonight. And it just was this unending, unknowing thing. So I made a promise if I ever was in this situation, I was going to interview every coach on the current staff and decide things on my own before I hired any coach from anywhere else. So I have not hired another coach. I have not hired another person to come to the University of Arkansas as of today. I tried to meet with our staff today, but there were 3 or 4 coaches that were on the road recruiting, so they'll all be back today. I'm going to meet with our staff tomorrow at 9 a.m., go through a sheet of information that I want to share with all of them together for the first time, and then I'll sit down individually with each one of them that want to sit down with me and talk about their job there, anything that they can tell me that can make the job better, whether they want to share it with me or not. And then we'll make some decisions from there moving forward. I can't tell you if I'm going to bring somebody from Wisconsin. I can't tell you if I'm going to take someone from anywhere else in the United States. I can tell you this, the staff that I'm going to assemble is going to be second to none, and it's going to be that way because of the support I've gotten from the administration. Yes.
Hey, Coach. Trey Biddy with hogsports.com. I was curious about your approach to recruiting and the players that are already committed to Arkansas, what you'll do with that, and also when you'll hit the ground running.
Absolutely. The part that's very important for me is to understand not only the player that we're bringing in here, but the person we're bringing in here. I'm a big believer in, obviously there's a lot of young men in the United States that can play great football, but they have to fit into the ideas and the beliefs and the system itself. Arkansas academically has a strong reputation, and all those things make sure that we understand we bring a young man in, he's going to play good football year 1, but he's going to play great football in year 4, and we want to make sure he gets there. So to bring in a type of kid that's going to be able to buy into this culture, that takes a little bit of film study, but it takes a lot of person study. And so I'll begin making phone calls as soon as we get off this stage. I've got every kid that's committed to us. I will review their film in the next 24 hours, make sure that we want to make sure we move forward with every kid that's committed to us. There's a couple that I've already seen already that we want to make sure we're in, and I will not hit the road until next Monday, simply because I want to give great service to the staff that is here, the administration, get a good understanding of what I can bring in here, and then go out on the road. And as a head coach, you can only go once. So if I'm coming to visit you, I only have one chance to meet your mom, your dad, your uncle, your brother, your minister, your preacher, whoever it is. I only have one chance to go in your school. Assistants get to go in 6 times. So when I decide to cash my coin, I got to make it last, and I won't want to use that unless I know it's real.
Yeah, Coach. Hey, Bob Holt, Arkansas Democrat Gazette. I've got a 3-part question.
All right, Bob.
If you could bear with me.
You might have to remind me.
Okay. How important is it you think you have some assistants with SEC experience, whether it's here or some other SEC school? I also had read in the Madison paper that you took less money for yourself to have more money available for assistants. I was wondering if you could talk about that. And then, Paul Petrino, the offensive coordinator, has already taken another job at Idaho. Do you have an offensive coordinator in mind?
I do. I'm going to go in reverse order because I remember him. Offensive coordinator, I have probably a short list of 6 people that I'm very interested in. Some I know very, very well. Some I know through the coaching profession, and it's something that I would prioritize as the first thing on my agenda when I go to hire a staff, just because obviously it's going to be somebody new because from the departure of Paul. In reference to what was the second part? Oh, yeah. On my staff, it's important to have guys from the SEC. I think that would be a bonus. I'm not going to say that it's a mandatory thing. I've learned this, okay? I grew up on a small farm in Illinois. I grew up in an environment where it was very, very different from the world of college football that I'm in now. But everywhere I've went, I've been able to recruit, I think, because of the person you are, not because of where you're from. And I understand SEC experience would be very, very nice, and my guess is several of my coaches will have that, but it's not a priority. I'm going to recruit good coaches to bring them here and fall in love with Arkansas and represent what we need to go out and play the game. And then the first part, that I gave up. Yeah, I think that's obviously for everybody to, figure out, and I'm not going to be that guy. I think, I remember I was an assistant at the University of Iowa. Hayden Fry came in and told me I was a GA, and I was going to leave, and I was going to go be the defensive GA at Stillwater at Oklahoma State. And Coach Fry said, "You don't want to do that." I'm like, "Why don't I?" He goes, "Well, I'm going to name you my interim linebacker coach." He goes, "But I got some good news and some bad news." I'm like, "All right." And he's like, "Well, the bad news is I can only give you a Buick LeSabre." And I'm driving this thing that, can barely go. I'm like, "Coach, hey, that's good news for me." And I go, "What's the good news?" And he's like, "Well, I can pay you $60,000. I thought I was like a millionaire. I was making $6,000 as a GA and didn't really comprehend what that meant. As I became more and more successful, coaches kept paying me more and more money. And when I came to the University of Wisconsin, I realized if you had success there, you get justly rewarded. When I began to have more and more success at Wisconsin, I stayed, but a lot of my coaches left, and I just wasn't able to compensate them in the way that other coaches were. I lost 3 coaches last year, all that went from making about $225,000 to making over $400,000 each. And I know I'm hiring the right guys because everybody keeps taking them from me. NFL, they kind of upset me a little because they got like silly money. They got like monopoly money. I mean, what are you going to do about that, And so this year, as soon as we won that game, I had 3 coaches come to me the day after the game, and they had been contacted by other schools, and we're talking, money that I can't bring them at Wisconsin. And Wisconsin isn't wired to do that at this point. And I just felt for me and for my future and my wife and what I wanted to accomplish in the world of college football, I needed to have that ability to do that. And thankfully, I found that here at Arkansas. And, yeah, to be quite honest, I didn't tell my wife about it. That was the part of the equation I left out, that was going to be a part of it. But we are very happy with where we're at. I'm going to tremendously enjoy whatever the value is of my contract here, and I'm going to coach every day, no matter what the price is.
Coach?
Yes.
Mike Jocks from 4029 Sports. Welcome to Arkansas. It's good to see you again. You said you're chasing a dream. And well, let me say this. Bob asked 3 questions. I'm only going to ask 2.
Okay. I can remember 2.
All right. You said you're chasing a dream. That's obviously a national championship. Would you leave Arkansas? If you ever left Arkansas without a national championship, would that be a disappointment to you? And you leave a good job behind at Wisconsin. Paul Chryst may be in the running. Would that be somebody you would recommend to Barry Alvarez, Paul Chryst?
I totally get it. Paul was a great coach. I don't comment really on things. The more you're going to get to know me is I don't comment on things that I'm not involved in. I learned that early on in life before football. So I really, whoever Coach Alvarez picks is going to be phenomenal. I think he's actually coaching a bowl game. I just heard that before I came here, which will be awesome. And they might finally win one. Everybody tells me, he won 3 and I lost 2. So that they will have a tremendous opportunity in the bowl game, and then whoever coach makes a decision will be awesome. I think when I said to chase a dream, I understand, and reporters all the time put words in your mouth. I didn't say that. I said I came here to chase a dream, and by that, if what I want to chase is a byproduct of winning a national championship, that's awesome. I want to give. I've never been to a place where I can give them something they've never had. I just won 3 in a row at Wisconsin, 3 Big Ten championships. Never been done. It hadn't been done in almost, I believe, 35 years in the conference. So we did something that you can't put a price tag on that. But on the same account, it's been done. At Arkansas, it's never been done. We've never won an SEC title. We've been in the game 3 times, and you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out you win the SEC title. You might be playing in the big one, especially after 2014. So that is what a dream is all about.
Grant Hall, coach from Press Row Radio. You mentioned a little bit about your family ties, Arkansas. How much time have you spent in this state in your life, and what did Jeff say to you about the people of Arkansas, if anything?
Well, I spent minimal time in the state of Arkansas. We actually recruited a tight end, Jake Byrne, who was a great player for us at Wisconsin. The things that Jeff kind of got me excited about, and John and the staff, was just I love people with passion. You know what I mean? I love people. There's nothing that I love better than to seeing a guy that's maybe got a blue-collar job, a guy that goes about his work the same way every day. Maybe he's got to go to work at 6 and he's done at 3, but he's passionate about what he does. That's what I love. I love people that love what they're doing, and the University of Arkansas has passionate people that support us. We have passionate supporters financially that is very, very apparent to me through the buildings I'm seeing constructed and the things that are available to us, that they're passionate about financially supporting us, which I'm very thankful for. But it's also the people that maybe don't have the financial means to support us, but they do have the emotional means to support us with great fans, great signs, great social media support, whatever it is. It's fun to see that environment.
Jed Carpenter with Ugly Uncle Media Network. 3 questions, but they're easy ones. What are you looking for in an offensive coordinator? You mentioned you're looking for one. Also, what was Jennifer's reaction when you first mentioned Arkansas, and how do you feel about fried catfish?
Like fried catfish. I wouldn't call Jen Jennifer again. And hey, I made the same mistake. I made the same mistake after dating her for about 3 years. And then as far as an offensive coordinator, you know what? I know this. There are a lot of great offensive philosophies out there. The things that I've seen work on the biggest stages have been offenses that can be consistent in what they're doing. They move the chains. They score touchdowns in the red zones. They don't beat themselves before the ball is snapped. One of the things I've prided myself on, I believe the last 3 years, the University of Wisconsin has been the least penalized team in college, in the Big Ten. 3 years ago, we were the least penalized in college football. We're not going to beat ourselves before the snap. That's an important aspect. Everybody wants to talk about how many games are won on Saturday. There are a lot of games that are lost on Saturday. People that fumble the football, people that throw interceptions, people that break down defensively, people that can't execute on special teams. So it's important for us to learn how not to lose a game before we learn how to win the game. And offensive philosophy is going to be a big part of that.
Coach Kurt Voigt again, Associated Press. Coming off, do you have any kind of grace period in mind coming off a 4-8 season, and do you expect the transition to be more difficult coming from a team that's been, frankly, more finessed to more of a balanced attack?
Yeah, you mean a grace period with the team itself?
For success,
yeah. You know what? I would defer that and listen to our players move forward. I wasn't in the meeting rooms with John L. I wasn't in the meeting rooms with Bobby. All I know is how to coach the way I know how to coach, and I'd speak to the truth to our players. I'm never going to lie. I'm never going to make something look better than it is. We're a 4-8 football team that a lot of people thought were going to be great at the beginning of the year, and we weren't. I wasn't here. I don't know what happened. All I can do is move forward. I guarantee in next year's preseason rankings, no one's going to rank us number 1 in the West. I doubt we're going to be in the top 4. We could be, just because I have the respect for this program. But the fact of the matter is, in life, a lot of people, they never cheer for the favorite. They pull for the underdog. And right now, we might be that guy. However we got there, whatever it is, now, you know what? I'm going to love being in front of you someday talking about being a favorite. But right now, we're going to embrace being the underdog. We're going to throw 2 arms around it. We're going to kiss it and make it feel good. Now, we can't accept it, but we're going to move forward and understand where we're at. I don't want someone in this room right now to think that we're great. If you're settled with what we just got through, then we're not going to be where we need to be. So I think that was very important. I want to tell that to our players, make them understand it, breathe it, live it, and love it. You know, the offense that we end up running here is always there's going to be a transition. It's going to be new words, it's going to be new vocabulary, a new playbook. How much it relates to last year's offense versus next year's offense is yet to be determined. There's a certain idea in my mind of what I would really like to have happen, but I really want to get a feel from what our personnel is, and we can evolve. The one thing I know from an offensive, the greatest respect you can have as a coach is when you have a team that fits, or you're able to fit a plan to the team you have. I'm going to recruit a certain way, and you'll get more and more specific what you want as the years go forward. But if you don't have the right dogs in the race, you're not going to win it. So whatever race we get into with a philosophy, we got to make sure we have the right people to run it.
You have time for a couple more.
You think it's hot out there? What? Get in front of these lights.
Coach
Yes.
Clay Henry with Hogs Illustrated. You mentioned Coach Fry and you mentioned Coach Broyles. Do you have any stories about Coach Fry and Coach Broyles or things that are in your core philosophy?
I've just listened to Coach Fry talk so many times. Coach Broyles talk at a National Coaches Convention when I was a young coach. And the thing that I learned, I came to the University of Iowa. I came as a farm kid that just knew how to work. I didn't have a scholarship, but every day after practice, all the great players always wanted me to stay after and work with them. And Coach Fry kind of pulled me aside. He didn't even know my name. He called me 86. That was my number, thank God. And he kind of just kept saying to me, just keep with what you're doing, believe in what you're doing. I ended up, playing as a redshirt freshman. I think that's when he probably learned my name because I was playing. And then the next year I actually was going through spring ball, and I tore my ACL. My second year of spring ball, I tore my ACL. It was about 10 days. There was 2 weeks left in the season, or in the spring season, and I remember talking to the trainer, and they're like, "Well, you tore your ACL," and I'm like, "Well, what's that mean?" They're like, "Well, you got two things. You can either fix it and you'll be out, 6 months to a year, or you can try to play with it. We teach a technique that you train your hamstring to take its place, and you can see what happens." And I said, "Well, let's do that. Well, how soon can I play?" And he goes, "As soon as you can stand it." And he goes, "I got to tell you, though, if you choose not to play with an ACL, if you play at the next level at the NFL, they'll fail you in your physical." I'm like thinking, I'm just trying to play at Iowa. I don't know anything about the NFL. So I play 7 days later. I play in a scrimmage, earn a scholarship. If I hadn't earned that scholarship, I probably wouldn't have been able to stay there just because of surroundings that I was in with the family and everything. Well, little did I know, I started to play pretty good, and I tell you what, I had a great NFL career. It was 7 days. I failed my physical because I didn't have an ACL ligament. So I started thinking to myself, well, that was probably pretty dumb. But I really wasn't good enough anyway. So Coach Fry taught me, in a long story longer, and during his coaching career is, just stick to what you know, be good at what you're doing, work hard, and good things are going to happen to good people. I think that part is really, really real. I can go for a million Coach Fry stories, and I don't know Coach Broyles that well, but I'm sure there's a million of them out there. We'll get to know each other real well. Yes.
Phil Gore, UATV Sports. You talked about passion and coming to a university that has a whole state behind it. What would you have to say to the fan base out there that's looking forward to this new regime?
I would say, embrace every moment of it. We're not going to go from A to Z overnight, but we're going to work day by day to gain a letter. We're going to take it. I told our players we're going to take it one day at a time, one play at a time, one hit at a time. I'm excited to be in this league. It's obvious that you people are very, very passionate. You just gained two of the biggest fans, of myself and Jen, and I got a pretty big family as well. And so there's going to be people across the United States that just became Razorback fans for sure.
Hey, Coach. Chris Brees from CBS KFSM here. A two-part question here. What do you think are some misperceptions of your offense that you ran at Wisconsin? And along those lines, do you think recruits from Texas and Florida can be vital for you here?
Yeah. First, our offense at Wisconsin. I think our offense currently that was there during my 7 years commonly got grouped into traditional Big Ten offenses, especially everybody in here, whether you're a Wisconsin fan or not, probably knows the name Ron Dane, national rushing record holder. I mean, back then they did run the ball. I was on the other. I played against them. They ran the ball 50 out of 70 times, 60 times because they could. It's a lot easier to run the ball than throw the ball. It doesn't take a rocket scientist much to figure that out. But the part that is real is during my time at the University of Wisconsin, you had a great balance. We were one of 2 or 3 teams in a row in a year that threw for 200 and ran for 200 a game, and that's a very it obviously shows great balance, but it's very difficult to defend. If you want to throw the ball all the time, all you got to do is play pass defense. You want to run the ball all the time, all you got to do is play run defense. I think balance is the key, and that's what's going to be there. And the second part was? How important do you think Texas and Florida? I think it'll be very, very important. Obviously, geographically, because of the SEC, I think Texas has always impressed me. But obviously, we have the Big 12 and everything else. It's a high fertile recruiting area, but you got your battles, and it'll be important for us to have that area covered very, very well. One of the neat things that I've been able to do is during my time as an assistant coach and a coordinator and head coach, I've recruited the state of Florida, especially South Florida. In the state of Florida, you'll got kids that'll leave, but once you drop below Orlando, those kids will go anywhere. And I'm excited to get there. I've signed over 50 kids from the state of Florida during my coaching career. A lot of times they've been our best players. On my current roster at Wisconsin, we have the best secondary we've had since I've been there. 3 of the 4 are from the state of Texas. So it's not uncommon ground. It's something I'm very, very excited about and moving forward on.
Coach Chris Bond with Arkansas Business. I'm curious your impressions of the facilities, the football operations center, and how involved will you be as they finish that out?
What got me excited in my initial talks with John and Jeff was just that the timing to be able to walk into these facilities in June and a few more additions after it. It's easy to see that there is a great need to be going through what we're going through right now. It is kind of fun that we might be able to come in here and do some things a little bit more. I think it's important for us to realize, I don't care if I'm at Arkansas, I don't care when I was at Wisconsin, I believe in player development. I just believe that a player in year 1 is going to be a good player, but in year 4 he could be great if you develop him. Not only develop him physically, mentally, and socially. Those are 3 things that go together in a big, big way. So that facility is going to allow us to do those things. You'll see a change in the way our kids approach maybe even just a simple thing is getting involved in the community. One of the things I've always done is made our kids do a certain number of hours community service. And, kids a lot of times will resist, and all of a sudden they go and read to a 2nd grade class and they love it. Now they want to go do it again. And you know what? That makes him a better player on Saturday because he's giving back. So I think there's a lot of areas, not just in buildings, but in people that we can build and improve upon here. Thank you very much.
News out of Arkansas. Running back Niall Davis is turning pro. Giving up his final year of eligibility, Robert put his name in the NFL draft. Returned this year after suffering the broken ankle. Only rushed for 377 yards and a couple scores.
He certainly didn't look as explosive this year. Not sure if it was completely healed. Not sure if he just wasn't running as hard because he knew that he was going to be going pro. Really didn't want to jeopardize his chances. But this is the thing at running back. You've only got so many carries in your body. And to me, I was one of those guys that left as a redshirt sophomore after only 3 years at Ohio State. To me, you've only got so many hits, you might as well be getting paid when you're taking them. That's the way that I see it, and I think that he's probably thinking the same thing. And to be quite frank, running backs don't go very high in the draft for the most part anyway. Teams change back so much. They kind of rotate guys, so the position has been kind of devalued. So there's really not a lot to gain by sticking around and trying to raise your stock value. And with the new rules, with the rookie salary caps, any more explanations?
Yeah, I think you covered it all.
I got 10 other things. We have time
He's
for
not
this.
the poster boy for staying in college at all. No.
We'll begin with this. Jesse, in this offseason, which coach or program made the best coaching decision?
I think it's Arkansas getting Brett Bielema from Wisconsin. Doesn't have any SEC ties, but he's a defensive-minded coach. Have to be that in the SEC. He's going to run the football. You got to do that in the SEC. And he's a winner. 3 straight Rose Bowls for Wisconsin. It's Arkansas.
Interim and legendary Wisconsin head coach Barry Alvarez. Interesting, you use both of those terms to describe him now. He was so frustrated with the departure of assistant coaches following Brett Bielema's exit that he considered taking over full-time for 2013 just to keep his staff intact. Well, ESPN college football insider Brett McMurphy joins us right now. Brett, how serious was Coach Alvarez in terms of considering staying on?
I think he was really serious about that. I had heard talk about that last week. I think it had got out enough that Alvarez addressed it Sunday with reporters. He said that he had given some thought to it basically to help keep those assistants from staying with Wisconsin. The Badgers are going to lose at least 5 assistants off Bielema's staff, including at least 2 going with him to Arkansas. So Alvarez considered taking the job full-time next year, but then he thought if he did that, they would just go into this process again next year.
Brett, speaking of next year, we're in the 3rd week of December here. What's the latest on the search for this head coach for next year in Madison?
Well, it's the number of people that have been linked to the job is rather lengthy. Paul Chryst at Pittsburgh, Miami's Al Golden, Mike Riley at Oregon State, all of them either declined to interview or were not interested in the job. Alvarez said he would not pursue Chryst, a former Badger offensive coordinator, out of respect for Pittsburgh and all the turnover they've had in their coaching vacancies lately. It looks like right now the leading contenders are Wisconsin defensive coordinator Chris Ash and assistant Joe Rudolph. Ash is supposed to go to Arkansas. Obviously, if he has an offer to be the head coach at Wisconsin, he would stay there. Alvarez also has talked to Jacksonville Jaguars assistant Mel Tucker, who also has Wisconsin ties. Alvarez reiterated Sunday, do not panic. He will find a head coach, but certainly for Wisconsin fans, they would rather resolve this sooner than later.
Hey, Brett, thank you so much for the info. Brett McMurphy with the latest in Madison. All right, Joey, how serious a situation is this for the folks up there in Badger Country?
I think it's serious for the future. I think that the Rose Bowl, you're fine. Alvarez is a terrific coach. Take over the Rose Bowl. The problem is when you talk to these coaches about what they've done in their bowl preparation, the first thing they say is the first week they were out recruiting. Who's doing that for Wisconsin? As a recruit, back in the day, you would get a phone call from a head coach. That was the first thing you were excited about. George Perlis calls me from Michigan State. I'm excited about that phone call. Well, now, who's making that call? Who's getting these kids excited?
Yep. You know, Des, too, you talk about, you mentioned the recruiting process. Imagine you're a recruit right now. Think about what's your mindset if you want to go to Wisconsin or you're considering Wisconsin, but you don't know who you're going to play for. What are you thinking right now?
Chris, I think it puts you in a tough position as a recruit. All I can do is share my experience. When I was in Cleveland, Ohio, coming out of high school, the Buckeyes had just fired Earl Bruce, and they were bringing in a guy named John Cooper. Joey knows these guys very well. And my mindset was, Dad, I don't want to be part of a rebuilding program, so Columbus is off the table. Now, I was in Cleveland. I never even took an unofficial visit down the road to Columbus because I didn't want to be part of a rebuilding program. The indecisiveness, people didn't know what type of offense Cooper was going to bring. And it seems like they're in the same situation up there in Madison, Wisconsin. They may lose 5 assistant coaches. It's taking them long to just put out 2 or 3 names who are the top guys right now on their list. So as a recruit right now, I would probably start looking, I would keep my options open. I would just, keep the options open for other schools right now.
Yeah, and other coaches are saying, boy, you don't want to go there. They're recruiting against Wisconsin now for that very reason. Yeah. So how bad of a season was it for Arkansas? Well, the 8 games they lost this year, the most they've lost in a single season in 22 years. And how long ago is that? Well, they weren't even in the SEC yet. And let's just say it, the Hogs weren't very competitive. 4 of those losses were by at least 18 points, including blowouts of 52, 48, and 31 points. The last time that happened, also in 1990. And a major reason for Arkansas's undoing this year, turnovers. The Hogs finished with minus 19 in the turnover differential margin. South Florida is the only FBS team with a worse margin. But Arkansas's demise began back in April when Bobby Petrino was fired amidst a scandal and replaced by John L. Smith. After Smith's 1-year contract expired, the Hogs pulled off a shocker by luring Brett Bielema from Wisconsin to Arkansas, despite leading the Badgers to their 3rd straight Rose Bowl. And Coach Bielema joins us right now. And, Coach, I know to a lot of college football fans, the move from Wisconsin to Arkansas seemed a little bit of a lateral move in a general sense, from one top program to another. So what was it about the timing that made it right for you to make that move to Arkansas?
I think, Chris, it came down to 2 basic things. It was a huge opportunity for me as a head coach to be in the SEC conference. Nothing against the Big Ten. I cut my teeth there as an assistant, as a player, and as a head coach. But I joined the SEC, especially in the world of 2014, when we kind of make a step forward and it changes in the world of college football. And the other was just to get an opportunity to bring along a number of assistants. I'd lost quite a few over the last couple of years with basically some guys that moved for cash reasons, people to put and provide for their family. So I got a huge jump in my assistant coach's salary pool, which was big.
Now, Coach, we all know Arkansas has thrown it all over the yard in the last few years. You made your bones at Wisconsin about running the football. Is the personnel there in place in Arkansas right now to sort of switch gears and get right to running the football downhill?
Well, I've always admired coaches that maximize their personnel the best, and obviously they're going to have a personnel scheme here that isn't quite fit for what we did at Wisconsin right away. We'll transition to that. I think one of the things of bringing in Jim Chaney from Tennessee and obviously all the places he's been able to have success, it's going to be a blend of the spread and the pro style. I look for balance. I'd love to be able to sit here a year from now and know that we averaged over 200 yards throwing and running a game. That's a magic number for me that brings a lot of success. So it's going to be a work in progress, but one that we're really excited for.
You mentioned being excited about coaching in the SEC. I guess it's be careful what you wish for, right? You're playing in the toughest division in the toughest conference in America. Is there a game plan sort of that you've contemplated? Okay, this is how you win here?
Well, obviously, there's been a number of teams in our league in both divisions that have had success with a formula that was kind of similar to Wisconsin. Play good on defense, being able to have the balance in the throwing game and the running game, be smart, be creative with your personnel, take advantage of special teams. And again, Arkansas has never been able to play or win the SEC championship. They played in the game 3 times, and it's going to be a tremendous opportunity, and that's our goal is obviously to get to that game and see what can happen from there.
Coach, I've wondered this from a recruiting standpoint. You moved from Arkansas, or you moved from Wisconsin to Arkansas. What's the protocol as you go back out on the recruiting trail in terms of contacting recruits that may have verbally committed to Wisconsin?
Yeah, it's always going to be a touchy deal. And at Wisconsin, I basically made the decision that I wasn't going to reach out to any players unless they reached out to me. And really, that's what we've held true. Really, only a couple of kids have done that. And it's different needs, different qualifications. So it's one that I have the utmost respect for Wisconsin, and obviously going to be cheering for them big time on the Rose Bowl.
All right, one final question, and it is an important one. Have you performed a hog call yet?
Chris, I actually grew up on a pig farm, so I've been saying pig suyo my whole life. Never with the 50 TV cameras in front of you. So it's something that we take a lot of pride in here, and I'm getting used to it by the day.
I'm sure you will. Thanks for joining us, Coach. Best of luck down the road.
Thank you, Chris. Happy holidays. Go Hogs.
Never even been to a pig farm. Either one of you guys ever even been to a pig farm?
No, sir.
No.
So we practice that hog call. Well, the Brett Bielema era at Arkansas is going to begin with 3 straight home games. He'll get his first taste in the SEC when Heisman winner Johnny Manziel and Texas A&M come to Fayetteville. That's in Week 5. 9 of the Razorbacks' 12 games next year will be against teams who were in bowl berths this year. So, indeed, welcome to the SEC. Joey, how quickly can Bielema turn things around in Arkansas? They were 4-8 last year.
That's a tough one. The first thing you think about when you think Arkansas is what they're going to lose, next season. Tyler Wilson, your quarterback, 2 straight 3,300-yard passing seasons. You look at Kobe Hamilton, the wide receiver, 1,300 yards. Dennis Johnson, now Davis at running back. I mean, all their skill position guys are gone coming into this next season. So it's going to depend on what they have in the cupboard. Now, Brandon Allen played early in the season when Tyler Wilson got hurt. Didn't play well, but you do know about Brett Bielema's offensive system. It is quarterback friendly. And if there's a system and a coach that can bring a quarterback along with the run game and the play action pass, it's Brett Bielema.
There's a lot of people look at this move, and I talked with Coach about it. You're at Wisconsin. You're the top of the Big Ten. You're going to the Rose Bowl 3 straight years. Mm-hmm. It seems like a lateral move to a lot of people, and to me, it certainly did. What do you think about that?
Well, I think a lot of people started to wrinkle their face at this move. I would say relax your mug, because history will tell you there have been several Big Ten coaches with Big Ten roots. How about Nick Saban? He's about to go for potentially his 3rd national championship in 4 years. Michigan State roots, Big Ten. Les Miles, he just signed an extension with LSU. He won a national championship with the Tigers. Big Ten roots, Michigan. And Urban Meyer, when he was a coach at Florida, won 2 national championships. He's back to where he started in Columbus, Big Ten roots, Ohio State. So I think that this move isn't as quirky as some people may think, and I don't think you need to raise your eyebrows. I think Brett Bielema will experience a high measure of success in the SEC.
Since Jimbo Fisher has been in Tallahassee, he's continued winning ways both on National Signing Day, and it translated into an ACC championship this year. And he's hoping that perhaps he will get a clean sweep at Booker T. Washington High School. We just saw Matthew Thomas decide to go with the Seminoles. Now here's Thomas's teammate Denver Kirkland, the number 12 offensive tackle in the country. Denver Kirkland, number 144 in the ESPN 300. He's considering Florida State and Arkansas now under Brett Bielema. Arkansas got a great running back and Alex Collins from Florida earlier this week. So now, will the Pigs be able to pull in an offensive lineman to block for him? Denver Kirkland joining us now. So Denver, time has arrived. What is your decision? Where will you play your college football?
Well, I decided to spend my next 3 to 4 years at the University of Arkansas.
So Denver Kirkland choosing to go to Fayetteville and play for Brett Bielema. So Denver, what led you to decide to go and play for Arkansas? What was the most important factor in your decision?
Really like the most impact in my decision was my mom and stuff like that. And when I went to Arkansas, like I expected a lot of things to be unexpected, and it was a good time up there, a good time. And it feel like family up there, so that's why I'm gonna take my talents to this year.
What impact did it have on you, the history that Brett and the staffs that he's had in the past? They've had a history of putting offensive linemen in the next level, of having strong running games. What effect did that have on you?
The effect they had on me was like, it was really good. Like just because of the things they do at Arkansas and like the coaching staff and where they came from, and then like how many linemen they produced in the league. So that was a big impact on my decision.
Well, Denver, congratulations on your decision to play for Arkansas, and we look forward to seeing you play over the next few years. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Denver Kirkland, number 12 offensive tackle. Some view him as a project. I'll tell you what, though, Bielema over the course of his time there with various assistant coaches obviously has taken a lot of guys and turned them into high draft picks in the offensive line and necessarily weren't at the very top of the recruiting class. And here he gets a guy in the ESPN 300. Arkansas's class headlined by Alex Collins, a running back. What's your impression of what Brett's been able to do in Arkansas in a short period of time?
Well, I think he's done a nice job. It's so difficult when you have to go out and you're hiring coaches, you're moving families, you're on the phone, you're trying to evaluate the class that was recruited by a previous staff, make assessments in that regard, and then go out and establish relationships with those players and other players like an Alex Collins, like a Denver Kirkland. That's all a daunting task in a very short period of time. And so I think what he's done with Kirkland and Collins here in the last 48 hours or so is he's found identity-type players that fit the makeup of what he would like his program to be identified as. That's physical. We're going to run it downhill. We're going to be all after you in the interior front, and then you're going to get a heavy dose of the run game. So not only do you have to get great players, but you've got to get the right player, that player that fits who you are. And I think that Brett Bielema deserves a lot of credit for that.
And the Southeastern Conference, having won 7 straight national championships, you see there is a base of players from the southeastern part of the country, ESPN 300 players, 172, a little more than half, come from the SEC states, which now, by the way, includes the state of Texas. But even without Texas, with Texas A&M being added, you'd still be at nearly half of the ESPN 300 from that area.
Well, you look at the demographics of the South, you look at the warm weather of the South, but more than anything, you look at the culture. They're invested even at the youth level. Football's important. Being a good football player is important in your community. The high schools are invested in developing good football players, and that's why the SEC is dominated. And don't forget the 2 schools down there, too, Florida State and Clemson, having great recruiting years every year as well.
Not necessarily the spread concept we expect to see when Arkansas takes the field. You see the top classes on National Signing Day. Florida, Ohio State, and Alabama leading the way. Ole Miss with their great finish on this day, moving into the top 5. Some other SEC schools in there, LSU, Texas A&M, and Georgia in the top 10. And then just outside of that, Arkansas has put together a solid class. And Brett Bielema's first year as the head coach of the Razorbacks. And Brett joins us now on the phone on National Signing Day. Brett, how would you describe what the process has been like for you getting acclimated to Arkansas and still trying to put together a recruiting class?
You know what, Reese? It's been a little bit of a whirlwind, but we've weathered the storm pretty well. Very excited about the guys we added to our roster today. Really a bunch of players from coast to coast, kind of different skill sets, but guys that I think fit our program well, and hopefully they'll be great players down the road.
I know sometimes coaches don't like to compare players per se, but you've had such a run of great running backs at Wisconsin. You signed a highly regarded guy in Alex Collins. How would you compare him in terms of skill set to some of the good backs you had at Wisconsin?
Well, unfortunately, Reese, I can only comment on guys that we got paperwork through on.
I didn't realize his paperwork wasn't in. I apologize for that. So I do think, do you have the paperwork on Denver Kirkland? Can I ask you?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so all right, he's a lineman that fits the Wisconsin mold.
Going back to my time as an assistant coach down in South Florida, signed over 50 players from Palm Beach, Broward, and Dade, and a little bit on the west side of the state. And Denver Kirkland just, blew me away when he came here on his visit. His personality, obviously we know he's a great player, but just really felt at home here. And to get him to jump in our boat was big. We're going to continue to make a huge hit down there in South Florida because I think it's a vital recruiting ground, and especially in the SEC.
What is your recruiting philosophy in terms of area at Arkansas?
Reese, first and foremost, we got to surround our state with a gate that doesn't let anybody out. If anybody can help us win an SEC championship, they need to play for the Arkansas. And I know this. We only got a couple weeks of running here, but for the most part got everybody that we wanted in our program and did a great job. I think our bordering states are very important for us just because a lot of times you have people with ties to Arkansas. And then one of the things we'll do, Reese, we're going to jump into some probably non-traditional SEC areas just because of my coaching staff and where we've been. We'll jump into Wisconsin, try to go after the best players from there. We'll be in the Chicago area, we'll be in Cincinnati, we'll be in Jersey, and go after some kids where we got strong ties to the coaches in that area and let them have a chance to play in the SEC.
What's the biggest adjustment, Brett, that you've had to make in the move to Arkansas?
I think it comes down to one thing, Reese. It's being able to showcase the SEC, to be able to say, you're in a conference that's won the national championship numerous times. You're in a conference that just if you lose one game, you're not going to be out of the national title talk. You're going to be in the contention to be in the world elite of college football. What I've been blown away is just come down here and to see the support and the passion, not only just from our fans, but everywhere you go. People are big fans of the SEC and the type of football that's played. It's really kind of a neat opportunity for me as a head coach and one that I've been very excited about before I got here, and it's been doubled since I've been here.
In terms of style of play, how do you expect your style of play offensively at Arkansas to compare to what we've become accustomed to at Wisconsin?
First and foremost, I was able to hire a great offensive coordinator, Jim Chaney, a guy that had been in the Big Ten and kind of been in the NFL, and he has a good balance to what we're going to do. Obviously, the cookie cutter for the SEC has been Alabama and what they've been able to do offensively, and I think we'll resemble something along that lines. It's had success, and other teams in our league have kind of modeled after that. We'll bring our own style. Don't mistake me. I mean, we're not going to, do anything that we can't do personnel-wise, but we're going to line up. We're going to come downhill. We'll be patient and methodical. We'll look for explosive plays, but we won't beat ourselves before the snap. So there's a formula that we'll implement, and our kids will get disciplined in running it, and hopefully that'll win a couple games.
Brett, I'm sure it will. It always has in your career. We appreciate your time. Congratulations on a fine signing class, your first win at Arkansas.
Thank you, Reese. Appreciate it. Go Hogs.
See, in Arkansas, and by up, I mean north, not up in conference. Don't want to upset all of you. But Alex Collins, you see that running back there from the state of Florida. Supposed to be a Razorback, been a verbal commitment to Arkansas. Was supposed to sign that letter of intent today. The brakes on that have been slammed. Apparently, perhaps, according to Corey Long, our Florida recruiting man, by Alex's mom. Now, you told us that, close to an hour ago. She took the letters, perhaps, and has disappeared with them. Didn't want her boy to go to Arkansas and play football. It's too far away from home. What have you learned now?
Well, Dari, we're still trying to get a statement from Doug Gatewood, who's the head coach at South Plantation. And we're also trying to check on Alex's age, which could explain some things. If Alex is 18, he's obviously able to sign the letter of intent without needing a legal guardian or parent to sign it.
We didn't know that we were on to perhaps the most amusing, at least to me, story of the day with Alex Collins when we talked to Brett Bielema, now the head coach at Arkansas. Collins is a standout running back from the state of Florida, a centerpiece of the Arkansas recruiting class. And Corey Long reported a little while ago that apparently mom is not pleased with the notion of him going to Fayetteville and that far away from home to play college football. So she apparently, allegedly, reportedly snatched the national letter of intent went away with it through parts unknown, as they used to say in WWE. So now we're looking for Mom. We're trying to put some perspective to this. What do you think it means, not only for Collins, but how important is he to Arkansas's class?
Well, I think Arkansas fans are, first of all, hoping that letter of intent comes through and that Alex has Mom's running skills. That's
elusiveness. Mom has been very elusive in space so far today.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens with the letter of intent. Right now, Arkansas, remember, also Denver Kirkland, ESPN 150 offensive tackle, who was teammates with Matthew Thomas out of Booker T. Washington High School. Matthew Thomas, of course, signing with Florida State. But Denver Kirkland joined that class as well, along with Alex Collins, who right now remains a verbal commitment. But they have helped Arkansas move from number 39 in the top 40 up to number 31. Obviously, we'll see how the Alex Collins things play out. But you think about another thing, we talk about defensive line play, how important the SEC, but also running the football. It means getting a good offensive lineman. And Alex Collins, who, remember, it's an important part of the story as well, at one point was a Miami Hurricane verbal commitment throughout the process.
And, of course, big offensive line with Kirkland, assuming that they can keep Collins to go with him. Sort of a hallmark of what Bielema did while he was at Wisconsin and plans to take to Arkansas.
Alex Collins, the number 7 running back in the country out of Florida, was all set to sign his letter of intent to go to the University of Arkansas when, as the story goes, his mother allegedly took the letter of intent, left the school, left the parking lot, and the mother and the letter, I'm not sure exactly where they are now, but I know that Arkansas has not received it yet.
Strangest thing of the day. Strangest thing
in LI.
Yeah, strange. But let's keep this in mind. This is only the first day for signing and turning in a letter of intent. It's not a deadline on today or whatnot. Mom and son will chat and we'll figure it out one way or another. But it's not over because they don't get it in today.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
The thought was that she didn't want him to leave Florida to go play at Arkansas. So we'll see how this thing shakes out. We know Razorback fans are probably a little bit on edge about it.